Welcome to the Messianic Hour. I'm your host, Rabbi Scott. This show is dedicated to reaching the lost and educating the found. And we have a great two-part series. This is actually, or I should say, our 3- and 4-part series. Our first series we did last week. If you missed that show, I want to encourage you to go to our website, rabbiscott.com. You can go into our video archives and audio archives and either listen or video or watch it on our site. You can also go to YouTube video and go to the Messianic Hour, all one word, and check it out there. I want to encourage you to visit out the YouTube site for all of our past shows and our weekly teachings as well. You can also watch our live sermons on YouTube and right there on our website as well. That is at bethadonai.com. We have a link right there on our website. But we have a very special guest. I want to go right to this because Rabbi Cahn is the author of the new book, The Harbinger. It's a New York Times bestseller, Messianic rabbi, who God gave this vision of what was happening with the United States, comparing that to the biblical Israel with the starting at 9/11. We were talking about the last show on some of the 7th and 8th Harbinger. Jonathan, before we get into that real quick, it's interesting because this goes across two presidencies. Really, you have George Bush and then President Barack Obama, where some will say, oh, one has been pro-Israel, the other has been maybe not as pro-Israel as President Obama has been kind of wishy-washy. We also really see that with President Bush, especially towards the end of his term, with him really trying to push a two-state solution. Is that part of why we see this thing happening? We see, as we bless Israel, we get blessed. As we curse Israel, we get cursed. Is that what we're really seeing with this?
Well, that is, Scott, that's one of the dynamics. I mean, you have two things converging, and both are dangerous things. One, you have America turning increasingly rapidly away from God and against God and His ways. We all see that. And then at the same time, you have America, its relationship to Israel being more and more strained and more dangerous signs there. And those two things, we know the Bible says, you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. Curse Israel, you'll be cursed. Abandon Israel, you'll be abandoned. So you got those two things happening at the same moment in America's history, and that is a dangerous constellation. Speaking not well of our future. Right.
Now, we ended last week, you were talking about how then Vice President running Edwards was running for the position, and we see that he pronounces judgment against America. Go forth with your rest of your thought on that.
I realize what he's doing. Yeah. And then we were there, kind of left it on Capitol Hill the very day after 9/11. This 9th Harbinger, that this ancient vow of judgment is spoken from the Senate floor, matter of congressional record, as America's response to God. Now, America's response is the same as Israel's. We actually vowed the actual vow, but now it's America doing it. And just where we left off, Tom Daschle says at the end, as he gives this, he says, then this is what we will do. And what he said was, and again, none of these people know what they're doing. What he says was, he said, this is what we'll do, meaning we will do Isaiah 9:10, and that's exactly what he says. We're going to, in other words, America is going to follow the course of ancient Israel in its last days before destruction, and we are going to defy God, and really that is what is going to happen. If you look at there's the key to the future. The harbingers are not only, it starts with 9/11, but it goes to right now and what's behind everything, including our pocketbooks and the future. You look at we look at the commentaries on Isaiah 9:10 and Israel, and what they all say is that because America is Israel is rejecting this warning, this shake-up call, this first calamity, a second calamity is going to come because they're not getting it and God's trying to call them back. It's ultimately about mercy. So a second calamity is going to come. So what happens is with America, you have 9/11, we go through that, and then comes a second shaking of America, and that is not on a building. It is the economic collapse, the collapse of Wall Street, the collapse of the economy. We are still living in the shadow of this, and that happens a number of years later. And an interesting, eerie thing that people don't realize behind it, we left off on Capitol Hill the day after 9/11 when the vow is made, the ancient vow is made of judgment, and from Tom Daschle. Well, what happens is what was the action that triggered this whole collapse of the economy? It was when the government said, basically they came to New York City, the Federal Reserve, and they said, we're not gonna save Lehman Brothers. We're gonna let it fall. Basically, they announce it. They announce it on a particular day. They seal this decision. The day they announce it was the 7 years to the exact day when the vow was made of defiance on Capitol Hill.
Wow.
The vow when they said, we're coming back stronger than ever. On the anniversary, the exact day, it was September 12th, 2008, the government makes its fateful decision, and we enter into this next shaking of American power. That's the link. So it's all linked together to 9/11.
It's absolutely amazing to see how this all comes together and to understand, even as we're going forward, how this is affecting us as a nation. You know, there's probably skeptics out there saying, "Oh, well, how can you compare what's going on with Israel to the United States?" God works His judgment on all nations, and we see our God really is the same yesterday, today, and forever. We don't see a lot of changes. He does the same things, over and over again to get our attention, and that's really what we're seeing here.
Yeah, exactly, and America has been too much is given, much is required. America has been blessed even more so. People say, well, Israel, they offered up their children on sacrifices. How can you compare with America? They offered up thousands. We've offered up millions.
Right.
And it goes even farther because we talked about there were two who gave this vow of judgment. Well, the Bible speaks of a principle of 2 or 3 witnesses to establish a matter of judgment. Well, could this apply to America? Yeah, we've already seen the two from the Senate floor, Tom Daschle, then John Edwards says the vow. But there's a third witness. There's 2 or 3 witnesses. There's a third witness, and the third witness of America under judgment is the president himself, the president of the United States. As the economic collapse is happening, he goes to Congress, first time in front of Congress, and he gives his first major speech, and the speech has as its center point, in the beginning he says, well, listen, even though this is all happening, all this happening, but, this is the big but, he says, I want every American to know this. What does he want every American to know? He said, we will rebuild. And he said, we will recover. He does the central core of Isaiah 9:10. In fact, he's actually saying word for word what Tom Daschle said on Capitol Hill the years before. So here it's sealed, and all over the country, all over the world, they put the words, we will rebuild, Obama vows. And it's actually affecting Isaiah 9:10 on the Internet. It's actually replacing it on the Internet.
Wow.
There is a principle in the Bible that in the day of a nation's judgment, the foundation is exposed of the nation's foundation. Well, what would that be with America? America's power, its economic, its financial superpower began on Wall Street, and it began in the late 1800s, and with the signing of a document called the Buttonwood Agreement, and that's the beginning of America's rise to power. Why was it called Buttonwood? Buttonwood was the tree under which they signed the document, and that Buttonwood became the name of Wall Street. It's the first name of Wall Street. They formed the Buttonwood Association, later became the New York Stock Exchange. So Buttonwood is the sign of America. It's the foundation of its financial power. Why Buttonwood? Buttonwood is a tree, a symbol. The Buttonwood, what kind of tree? It was the sycamore tree. America rises to power under the sign of the sycamore tree. On 9/11, we just saw the sign reappears. God says, I will expose the foundation. On 9/11, the sign of the sycamore reappears, but this time it's struck down. So what does that mean if the sign, when we rise, and then is under a living sycamore, what does a struck down sycamore signify? And they take the sycamore, they put it on display, but they also make a statue of the sycamore, and they put this statue of the uprooted sycamore from 9/11, they don't put it at Ground Zero, they put it on another street. They put it on Wall Street, which was called Buttonwood. So now the sign of the uprooting of America's power, which is what we are watching now.
So, John, we got about just a little bit over a minute left in this segment. I want to save some for the last segment. Quickly, give your website on how they can learn more about the kind of the background on it. We know they can go to Amazon and all those places. We're giving free plugs here for Amazon. If they want to make a donation, they can. But I want them to really be able to go to your site as well to learn more about it, and I really want to encourage them to buy the book as well.
Thank you. Yeah, the Harbinger is everywhere. But our site is where you can get the teachings behind the Harbinger and the images and all that, and DVDs, all that stuff. We created the site. It's easy. It's called harbingerwebsite.com or the harbingerwebsite.org. We want to make it easy. And the ministry for anything else is hopeoftheworld.org or hopeoftheworld.com.
And your congregation is located in New Jersey. Tell me a little bit about that real quick.
Right outside New York City, and it's in Wayne, New Jersey. It's the Jerusalem Center, or Beth Israel at the Jerusalem Center, about 20 minutes from New York. Jew and Gentile, one a Messiah, as with you. And it's, yeah.
And that's great. I want to encourage you to now, do you do live streaming as well?
We don't do live stream, but we have we're on YouTube and all over, and they can also see clips on the website, and we have our messages up there.
Great. So I want to encourage you, if you're looking for a Messianic congregation in New Jersey area, I want you to visit that site. If you don't have a Messianic congregation in your area, you can view our service each Saturday morning at starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can go to bethadonai.com or you can go to rabbiscott.com. We got the link right there. You can watch it from your iPhone, your app. In fact, we even have apps not only for the show on the Messianic Hour, but also our congregation, Beth Adonai. So for you Apple users, go check that out. We're going to be back more right with Jonathan right after this break. Stay tuned.